Everyone who studies the Bible faces some sort of challenges to understand the context, particularly the Old Testament. There are many factors for this reason. The first, the time and the landscape is different. The nations which are mentioned in the Old Testament and the present day names of the countries are different, and the boundaries are different compared to the Old Testament. And the second, the Bible which was written in the context is entirely different the context which we are living in the present century.
The biblical books are not arranged chronologically. Rather, it groups the books together into 5 sections.
There are many things we can discuss like this. Wilmington's Guide to the Bible, written by Dr. Harold Wilmington. In this book, Dr. Harold Wilmington provides a concise and exhaustive summary of basic Bible information in a layman language. Today, I would like to share overview and summary of Old Testament survey. This session may not cover everything, but we are going to see the overview of the Old Testament to understand in our Bible study.
Overview and summary of the Bible. Old Testament from Wilmington's Guide to the Bible. He divided the Old Testament into 9 different stages: creation stage, patriarchal stage, Exodus stage, conquest stage, judges stage, kingdom stage, captivity or exile stage, return stage, and finally intertestamental stage. Creation stage from 4004 BC to 2165 BC. Books of the Bible covered in this stage: Book of Genesis, chapter 1 to chapter 11. The main people in creation stage: Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Enoch, Methuselah, Noah and his sons. Main events in creation stage: creation, fall of man, flood, Tower of Babel. Facts concerning this period. It covers approximately 1839 years, begins with creation and ends with Terah, Abraham's father, leaving Ur of the Chaldeans. There are 4 distinct periods of time in this stage: the creation of all things in Genesis chapter 1 and 2, the corruption of all things in Genesis chapter 3rd to 5th, the condemnation of all things Genesis chapter 6 to 9, the confusion of all things Genesis chapter 10 and 11. Patriarchal stage from 2165 BC to 1804 BC. Books of the Bible covered in this stage: Book of Genesis chapter 12 to 50, Book of Job. The main people in patriarchal stage: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Job and his friends. Main events in patriarchal stage: Abrahamic covenant, beginning of Hebrew nation, Joseph a slave in Egypt, Israel moved to Egypt, God allows Satan to test Job. Facts concerning this period. It covers approximately 361 years, begins with God calling Abram and ends with the death of Joseph in Egypt. The Abrahamic covenant: God gave Abraham the promise of a great nation. He was chosen to be the father of numerous descendants, to be a channel of blessing to others. Those who bless him are to be blessed, and those who curse him will be cursed. Blessings on the nations are to come through Abraham. Exodus stage from 1804 BC to 1405 BC. Books of the Bible covered in this stage: Book of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. The main people in Exodus stage: Moses, Aaron, Pharaoh, Joshua, Caleb, Miriam, Eleazar, Phinehas. Main events in Exodus stage: deliverance from Egypt, the Shekinah glory cloud, the appearance of manna, the institution of the Sabbath, the giving of the law, the building of the tabernacle, the failure of Kadesh Barnea, the sin and death of Moses, Joshua's appointment as leader. Facts concerning the Spirit. Spanning approximately 399 years, this period begins with Israelites suffering oppression in Egypt, birth of a savior Moses, and ends with Moses dying on the banks of the Jordan, just short of Canaan, the promised land. Mosaic covenant, a conditional covenant between God and the Israelites, where God promises to make Israel his chosen nation among all people if they obey him and his commandments. It involves the issuance of the 10 commandments. Conquest stage from 1405 BC to 1382 BC. Books of the Bible covered in this stage: Book of Joshua. The main people in conquest stage: Joshua, Caleb, Rahab. Main events in conquest stage: invasion of the land, conquest of the land, division of the land, final words from Joshua. Facts concerning this stage. This period covers approximately 23 years. It begins with Joshua's commission as leader of Israel. 3 days later they enter Canaan, and concludes with his death and the burial of Joseph's bone which they brought from Egypt. Miracles: parting of the Jordan River, the falling of the wall of Jericho, and the standing of the sun. Judges stage from 1382 BC to 1043 BC. Books of the Bible covered in this stage: Book of Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel chapter 1 to 7. The main people in Judges stage: Gideon, Samson, Deborah, Naomi, Ruth, Boaz, Eli, Samuel.
Main events in conquest stage. This stage documents the sin cycle where Israel repeatedly falls into sin, faces oppression, and is delivered by judges. Key judges include Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar, Deborah, Gideon, and Samson, among others. This period highlights Israel's struggle with recurring sin and the leadership of various judges. Additionally, it highlights the nations that oppressed the Israelites during the judges' rule. Facts concerning this stage. This period spans approximately 339 years. It begins with Israel choosing a judge rather than a leader and concludes with Samuel serving as judge. This era is considered the darkest in Israel's history. After Joshua's death, there was no one for God to appoint as a leader, which was a major factor in Israel's rebellion against him, a rebellion that persisted throughout this period. During this time, Israel experienced 7 apostasies, where they renounced their faith. 7 servitudes to different heathen nations, and 7 instances of deliverance. Each apostasy occurred when Israel compromised by failing to follow God's commandment to drive out their enemies and instead worship the gods of those enemies. In response, God provided deliverance through a godly and chosen judge. In total, there were 15 judges, including Eli, Samuel, and Deborah, the only women among them. These judges were more military reformer than legal experts.